The entire royal court laughed when Lady Evelina Ashbourne arrived at Blackthorn Castle carrying only one small silver trunk. The servants whispered that the unwanted bride deserved the coldest chamber in the estate. The noblewomen mocked her plain arrival dress and predicted she would flee before winter. But before sunrise the next morning, the feared Duke of Blackthorn carried his own belongings into her tiny room and locked the grand royal chamber behind him. Why would the coldest duke in the kingdom abandon his royal suite for the woman everyone hated? What secret did he discover during their first night under the same roof? And why did the queen suddenly order spies to follow the new duchess? Before we uncover the truth, subscribe now and join this kingdom of royal romance, betrayal, and forbidden love stories. The rain fell heavily across the kingdom of Valtheria the night Lady Evelina Ashbourne arrived at Blackthorn Castle. The carriage wheels rolled slowly through the muddy road, while distant thunder shook the mountains surrounding the ancient estate. Inside the carriage, Evelina sat silently with her hands folded over her lap. Her pale silver gown had already lost its shine from the long journey. Loose strands of golden blonde hair rested against her cheeks, while her blue eyes stared through the rain-covered window. At 23 years old, Evelina had already become one of the most discussed women in the kingdom. Not because of beauty, not because of power, but because of disgrace. 3 months earlier, her father, Lord Ashbourne, had been accused of treason against the crown. The queen stripped the Ashbourne family of titles, land, and wealth within a single week. Lord Ashbourne disappeared before his execution date, leaving Evelina alone to carry the humiliation of her bloodline. No noble family wished to associate with her after that. No royal house dared invite her into their gatherings. Until the Duke of Blackthorn demanded her hand in marriage. Even now the entire kingdom could not understand why. Duke Adrian Blackthorn was feared throughout Valtheria. At 31 years old, he commanded the northern armies, controlled half the kingdom's trade routes, and answered only to the royal family. Tall, broad-shouldered, and dangerously handsome, Adrian carried the reputation of a ruthless man untouched by affection. Many women chased him. Many noble families offered daughters for marriage. He rejected every single one. Yet he personally requested the disgraced daughter of a traitor. The castle gates slowly opened. Massive black iron towers rose above the rain like shadows watching her arrival. Servants gathered beneath the entrance hall, whispering among themselves. Evelina stepped out of the carriage with quiet grace, despite the cold rain soaking the edges of her gown. Several noblewomen invited by the queen for the wedding festivities stared openly. Lady Beatrice Hawthorne folded her arms with a cruel smile. Look at her. The traitor's daughter arrives like a starving orphan. Lady Clarissa Vale laughed softly. Perhaps the Duke intends to keep her hidden in the servant quarters. The women around them joined the laughter. Evelina heard every word. Still she remained calm. Her silence only irritated them further. A middle-aged servant approached nervously. "My lady, your room has been prepared." Lady Beatrice interrupted immediately. "Surely not the royal chamber. A woman like her deserves the smallest room in the west wing." Another noblewoman nodded in agreement. "The old winter room suits her bloodline perfectly." The servants exchanged nervous glances. Nobody dared challenge the powerful guests. Finally, the head servant lowered his eyes toward Evelina. "My lady, we prepared the west chamber temporarily." The room had once belonged to elderly staff decades earlier. Cold, narrow, and isolated from the main castle. Everyone expected Evelina to cry or protest. Instead, she offered a calm smile. "Thank you." The noblewomen looked disappointed by her composure. Lady Clarissa stepped closer. "You should feel grateful the Duke allowed you through the gates at all." Evelina finally raised her eyes toward her. Gratitude becomes easier when cruelty loses its entertainment. Several servants hid shocked expressions. No woman spoke back to Lady Clarissa so calmly. Before another insult formed, the grand castle doors suddenly opened. The entire entrance hall fell silent instantly. Duke Adrian Blackthorn entered. The atmosphere shifted the moment he appeared. Tall, powerful, and dressed entirely in black royal uniform, Adrian carried a presence that silenced every whisper. His dark hair rested neatly against sharp features, while his gray eyes scanned the crowd with cold authority. The noblewomen immediately straightened their posture. Adrian ignored every person except Evelina. Rainwater still touched the edges of her dress, while loose golden strands framed her face. For several seconds, the Duke simply stared at her. Then his deep voice filled the hall. "You arrived safely." Evelina lowered her head politely. "Yes, Your Grace." Lady Beatrice quickly stepped forward with a bright smile. "Your Grace, we prepared a suitable chamber for Lady Evelina in the West Wing." Adrian slowly turned toward her. The temperature inside the hall seemed to drop instantly. Suitable. His single word carried enough warning to make Beatrice pale. The head servant hurried forward nervously. "Your Grace, the arrangement followed the wishes of the ladies present." Adrian looked back toward Evelina. "Did anyone ask for your opinion?" Evelina remained calm. "No, Your Grace." Adrian stared at her for another long moment before speaking again. "Very well." The noblewomen relaxed slightly, believing the Duke accepted the arrangement. But Adrian suddenly removed his black gloves and handed them to a servant. "Move my belongings into the West Chamber tonight." Complete silence filled the hall. Lady Clarissa blinked in disbelief. "Your Grace, surely you misunderstand. That room is unfit for a duke." Adrian's expression never changed. "Then Lady Evelina shall not stay there alone." Shock spread across every face. Even Evelina looked surprised for the first time. The Duke calmly turned toward the servants. "Prepare the West Chamber for both of us before midnight." No one argued again. The servants hurried immediately. Lady Beatrice struggled to hide her humiliation. Adrian walked toward Evelina without another glance at the others. "You must be exhausted from the journey." Evelina met his cold gray eyes carefully. "I did not expect this kindness." "Kindness?" A faint, almost invisible smile touched Adrian's face. "The court mistakes many things about me." He offered his arm toward her. "Come." The entire entrance hall watched silently as the feared Duke of Blackthorn escorted the disgraced daughter of a traitor through the castle like a treasured queen. That night the storm worsened outside. The West Chamber remained small despite the servants' efforts. A fire burned softly inside the stone fireplace while candlelight flickered against the dark walls. Evelina stood beside the window brushing her long golden hair after changing into a cream-colored nightgown. The room still carried traces of old wood and winter dust. A knock sounded against the door. Adrian entered moments later dressed in a dark black shirt with the sleeves rolled slightly above his wrists. Several servants followed carrying books, clothing, and weapons from the royal chamber. The servants quickly arranged everything before leaving the room in silence. Once alone, Adrian removed his sword belt carefully. Evelina watched him quietly. "You truly abandoned your chamber because of a cruel joke." Adrian placed the sword beside the fireplace. "No." His gray eyes lifted toward her. "I abandoned it because this castle has too many poisonous voices." The honesty surprised her. Most men within the royal court hid their thoughts behind performance. Adrian spoke directly. Evelina sat carefully beside the fire. "The kingdom believes you hate weakness." "The kingdom believes many foolish things." Adrian poured wine into 2 silver cups. "Including the belief that your father betrayed the crown." Evelina froze. Her fingers tightened slightly against her gown. "You believe he was innocent." Adrian handed her the wine cup. "I believe someone powerful needed him destroyed." The room fell silent except for the rain outside. Evelina studied Adrian carefully. "Why marry me?" The Duke stood beside the firelight. "Because your father discovered something before he disappeared. Something connected to the Queen." Evelina's heartbeat slowed. "My father never trusted Queen Lenora." "Neither do I." Adrian's voice lowered carefully. "The Queen grows dangerous when secrets threaten her power." For the first time since arriving, Evelina truly understood her situation. This marriage was never simple. She had entered the center of a silent royal war. Days passed quickly inside Blackthorn Castle. Rumors spread across Balthiria faster than wildfire. The feared Duke of Blackthorn shared his chamber with the disgraced daughter of a traitor. The Queen herself became furious after hearing the news. Meanwhile, Evelina slowly adjusted to castle life. Despite constant whispers from nobles and servants, she refused to appear weak. Every morning she walked through the royal gardens with calm dignity. Every evening she attended dinner beside Adrian without fear. The Duke watched her constantly, not with suspicion, but with growing fascination. Unlike noblewomen obsessed with status, Evelina spoke honestly. Unlike court ladies trained for manipulation, she carried quiet intelligence. One evening Adrian found her inside the castle library surrounded by old royal records. Candlelight reflected softly against her golden hair. Searching for something. Evelina looked up calmly. Answers. Adrian stepped closer. About your father. She nodded slowly. The records surrounding Queen Lenora disappeared too easily. Adrian closed the library door behind him. Because the queen removes anything dangerous. Evelina studied his expression carefully. You speak against the crown without fear. Adrian moved beside her. Fear becomes useless once war begins. The tension between them deepened with every conversation. Neither fully trusted the other. Yet both understood the loneliness carried by power and betrayal. Late that night, Evelina discovered a hidden letter inside one of the ancient books. The handwriting belonged to her father. If you discover this, then the queen already knows the truth. Do not trust the royal council. The poison entered the king long before his illness appeared. Evelina's hands trembled. Poison. Footsteps suddenly approached outside the library. Adrian immediately extinguished several candles and pulled Evelina behind the shelves. The library doors opened. 2 royal guards entered quietly. Search everything. The queen wants the hidden documents tonight. Evelina pressed closer against Adrian instinctively. His arms surrounded her waist protectively while both remained hidden within darkness. The guards searched nearby shelves. Adrian lowered his mouth close to her ear. Do not move. His deep voice against her skin sent unexpected warmth through her chest. After several tense minutes, the guards finally left. Adrian relit one candle carefully. Evelina handed him the letter. His expression darkened immediately while reading. The king was poisoned. Adrian folded the letter slowly. Then your father discovered the truth before disappearing. Evelina looked toward him with fear for the first time. The queen murdered the king. Adrian's gray eyes hardened. And anyone connected to the truth becomes a target. Another storm arrived several nights later. The castle slept under darkness while rain struck the windows violently. Evelina woke suddenly after hearing unfamiliar footsteps outside their chamber. Adrian was already awake. His sword rested within his hand before she fully sat upright. Stay behind me. The chamber door burst open violently. 3 masked assassins rushed inside. Steel flashed beneath candlelight. Adrian moved instantly. The first attacker fell before reaching the bed. The second crashed against the fireplace after Adrian struck him hard across the throat. The third assassin grabbed Evelina suddenly. A blade pressed against her neck. Adrian froze immediately. The masked attacker laughed coldly. The queen sends her regards. Before the assassin reacted, Evelina slammed her elbow backward into his ribs. The blade loosened briefly. Adrian crossed the room within seconds and drove his sword through the attacker. Silence returned slowly. Evelina stood breathing heavily while Adrian grabbed her shoulders. Are you hurt? No. Blood stained Adrian's sleeve from a cut along his arm. Evelina quickly moved toward him. You're injured. It is nothing. Sit down. Her command surprised him slightly. Adrian obeyed while Evelina cleaned the wound carefully using warm water beside the fire. The tension between them shifted quietly. For the first time, Adrian allowed someone close enough to care for him. Evelina wrapped fresh cloth around his arm gently. You could have died tonight. Adrian watched her face carefully. So could you. Their eyes met. The silence surrounding them no longer felt cold. Adrian slowly lifted one hand toward her cheek, brushing away a loose strand of golden hair. You were fearless. Evelina's heartbeat quickened. Fear only controls people who surrender to it. A faint smile appeared against Adrian's lips. You truly do not belong among weak nobles. Neither do you. The storm continued outside while the distance between them disappeared slowly. Adrian kissed her gently at first. Carefully. almost like a man unfamiliar with tenderness. Evelina answered the kiss softly while candlelight flickered around them. For one brief moment the war surrounding the crown no longer existed. But danger only grew closer. Far away inside the royal palace, Queen Leonora listened silently while a wounded assassin kneeled before her throne. The Duke protects her more than expected. Queen Leonora's cold green eyes darkened. Then remove them both before the truth reaches the kingdom. Winter arrived across Valtheria, bringing snowstorms and growing political tension. The Queen announced a grand royal masquerade inside the capital palace. Every noble family received invitations, including Blackthorn Castle. Adrian disliked the invitation immediately. It feels like a trap. Evelina adjusted the silver gloves around her hands. Then perhaps we should discover why she invited us. The night of the masquerade transformed the royal palace into a sea of gold candlelight music and dangerous smiles. Evelina entered beside Adrian wearing a breathtaking silver royal gown decorated with delicate crystals. Her golden blonde hair rested elegantly above her shoulders, while silver jewels highlighted her blue eyes. The entire ballroom turned toward her instantly. Several noblewomen looked furious. Others whispered with jealousy. Adrian wore black royal formal attire embroidered with dark silver patterns. Together they looked powerful enough to unsettle the entire court. Queen Leonora watched them from the royal staircase. At 46 years old, the queen remained strikingly beautiful. Long dark auburn hair framed sharp features, while emerald green eyes carried intelligence and cruelty equally. She smiled while greeting them. Duke Blackthorn. Lady Evelina. Adrian bowed slightly without warmth. Your Majesty. The queen studied Evelina carefully. You resemble your mother more every day. Evelina maintained calm dignity. I barely remember her. Queen Leonora stepped closer. A tragedy. Your family once served this kingdom loyally. Before betrayal poisoned it. The hidden threat beneath her words remained obvious. Adrian interrupted smoothly. Fortunately, truth often survives longer than lies. The queen's eyes briefly darkened. Music suddenly filled the ballroom. Queen Leonora smiled again. Then enjoy the evening. As the queen walked away, Evelina exhaled slowly. She knows. Adrian guided her toward the dance floor. Yes. Then why invite us? Because powerful enemies prefer public destruction. The royal orchestra began another slow melody. Adrian placed one hand carefully against Evelina's waist. Dance with me. Hundreds of nobles watched as they moved across the ballroom. Elegant, graceful, and dangerously beautiful together. But while dancing, Evelina noticed something strange. A royal servant secretly slipped a folded paper beneath Adrian's glove. The Duke opened it discreetly. Meet beneath the Eastern Tower before midnight if you want the truth about the king. Adrian's expression hardened instantly. A trap. Perhaps. Evelina looked toward the crowded ballroom. Or perhaps someone wishes to help us. Near midnight, Adrian and Evelina reached the Eastern Tower corridors. Darkness surrounded the empty stone hallways. Only distant candlelight guided their steps. Suddenly, an elderly royal advisor emerged from the shadows. Lord Cedric. Adrian recognized him immediately. The advisor looked terrified. You must leave the capital tonight. The queen discovered your investigation. Evelina stepped forward urgently. Did my father truly uncover the king's murder? Cedric lowered his voice. The queen poisoned King Alaric slowly over several years. Your father discovered records proving it. The royal council helped hide everything. Evelina felt coldness spread through her chest. Why would the queen murder her own husband? Cedric hesitated. Because Prince Lucien was never the king's son. Shock filled the corridor. Adrian stared at him sharply. Explain. Cedric swallowed nervously. Years ago, Queen Leonora began an affair with General Victor Delane. When the king discovered the truth, she poisoned him before scandal destroyed the crown. Prince Lucien inherited the throne illegally. Evelina struggled to process the revelation. Then my father knew everything. Yes. Cedric handed Adrian a sealed document. The proof remains inside these records. Before another word could follow, armed guards suddenly surrounded the corridor. Queen Lenora stepped forward, slowly smiling coldly. How disappointing. Cedric collapsed immediately after an arrow struck his chest. Evelina gasped. The queen looked toward Adrian calmly. You always were difficult to control, Duke Blackthorn. Adrian drew his sword instantly. You murdered your king. The queen laughed softly. The king was weak. The kingdom required stronger blood. Guards advanced around them. Evelina realized escape seemed impossible. But Adrian grabbed her hand firmly. Run when I tell you. The battle erupted violently. Steel clashed through the corridor while Adrian fought through royal guards with terrifying precision. Evelina stayed close, refusing to abandon him. Several guards fell before Adrian reached the stairway. More soldiers blocked the exit. Suddenly arrows rained from above. Blackthorn soldiers stormed the corridor wearing northern armor. The captain bowed quickly. Your Grace, we secured the palace gates. Adrian pulled Evelina beside him. Then we finish this tonight. Queen Lenora attempted escape through hidden corridors, but Adrian cornered her inside the royal throne chamber. Snowstorms raged outside while soldiers surrounded the room. The queen still carried proud elegance despite defeat. You believe the kingdom will survive after exposing this scandal? Adrian answered coldly. The kingdom deserves truth. Queen Lenora's eyes shifted toward Evelina. Your father destroyed himself for nothing. Evelina stepped forward calmly. No. He died protecting innocent people from monsters wearing crowns. The queen suddenly pulled a hidden blade, attempting one final attack. Adrian reacted instantly. The blade never reached Evelina. Moments later, Queen Lenora collapsed beside the royal throne. Silence filled the chamber. The war for Valtheria ended beneath falling snow. Several months later, peace slowly returned across the kingdom. Prince Lucian surrendered the crown after learning the truth surrounding his birth. The royal council restored the Ashbourne family name publicly. Lord Ashbourne himself finally returned from hiding after the queen's downfall. The kingdom celebrated Adrian and Evelina as heroes. But inside Blackthorn Castle, life changed far more personally. Spring sunlight filled the royal gardens while white roses bloomed across the estate. Evelina walked slowly beneath the trees wearing a soft blue royal gown. Adrian approached quietly behind her before wrapping one arm around her waist. You escaped the council meeting again. Evelina smiled softly. Your council discussions could put armies to sleep. Adrian kissed her temple gently. The kingdom still struggles to accept peace. Evelina turned toward him. And you? His gray eyes softened in ways only she witnessed now. I finally understand it. She studied him carefully. Understand what? That power means nothing without someone worth protecting. Evelina touched his face gently. The cold, ruthless Duke of Blackthorn disappeared the day he carried his belongings into the worst room in the castle. Adrian smiled faintly. No. He simply found the only woman brave enough to enter it beside him. Months later, the kingdom gathered once more inside Blackthorn Castle for the grand royal celebration honoring peace across Valtheria. Nobles filled the ballroom wearing luxurious royal attire, while music echoed through the candlelit halls. But unlike the cruel whispers surrounding Evelina's first arrival, this time admiration followed her everywhere. The same noblewomen who once mocked her now lowered their eyes respectfully. Lady Beatrice approached nervously holding a silver wine glass. Lady Evelina. Evelina turned calmly toward her. Yes. Beatrice forced an uncomfortable smile. I wish to apologize for my behavior during your arrival. Evelina studied her silently for a moment. The ballroom watched carefully. Finally, Evelina answered softly. Cruelty often reveals more about the speaker than the victim. Beatrice lowered her head in embarrassment before quietly leaving. Adrian approached moments later wearing elegant black royal formal clothing embroidered with silver patterns. You handled that gently. Evelina smiled faintly. Victory becomes meaningless without grace. Adrian looked at her with visible admiration. Every day you surprise me. The orchestra began another royal melody. Several couples entered the dance floor beneath golden chandeliers. Adrian extended his hand toward her. Dance with me, Duchess Blackthorn. Evelina placed her hand in his. Gladly. They moved across the ballroom slowly while guests watched in admiration. No fear remained between them now. No secrets. Only trust built through war, betrayal, survival, and forbidden love. During the dance, Evelina noticed Lord Ashbourne standing nearby speaking quietly with northern commanders. For the first time in years, her father looked peaceful. The kingdom slowly healed around them. Adrian lowered his voice while guiding her through the dance. "There is something I never told you." Evelina looked curious. "What secret remains now?" A rare warmth entered Adrian's expression. "The first night you arrived at Blackthorn Castle, I intended this marriage only as political protection." Evelina raised one eyebrow slightly. "Only political. At first." Adrian brushed his fingers gently against her waist. "Then you walked into a hall filled with cruelty and faced every insult without fear. You never begged for sympathy. You never broke." His gray eyes remained fixed on hers. "That frightened me more than any battlefield." Evelina laughed softly. "The mighty Duke of Blackthorn feared one disgraced woman." Adrian leaned slightly closer. "One fearless woman." Their dance slowed beneath the music. Around them, the kingdom celebrated peace, while candles illuminated the ballroom in golden light. For years, Adrian believed love weakened rulers. Years of war, betrayal, and political bloodshed hardened him completely. Yet Evelina transformed the coldest corners of his soul without force, without manipulation, simply through loyalty, courage, and truth. Near midnight, fireworks exploded above Blackthorn Castle, illuminating the sky with silver and gold. Guests gathered along the grand balcony to watch the celebration. Snow from the distant mountains reflected beneath the moonlight. Evelina stood beside the balcony railing while Adrian wrapped his cloak gently around her shoulders, protecting her from the cold breeze. "The kingdom finally sleeps peacefully tonight." Adrian looked toward the glowing horizon. "Because of you." Evelina shook her head softly. "Because we fought together." Below the balcony, musicians continued playing royal melodies while nobles laughed and celebrated. But Adrian focused only on the woman beside him. Months earlier, the court mocked her and offered her the worst room inside the castle. Now she stood beside him as the most respected duchess in Valtheria. Adrian reached into his coat slowly before revealing a small velvet box. Evelina looked surprised. "What is this?" Inside rested an ancient royal ring decorated with dark silver and blue gemstones. "This belonged to my mother." Adrian's voice remained calm but sincere. "She once told me the ring should only belong to the woman strong enough to survive Blackthorn blood." Evelina looked toward him quietly. "And now?" Adrian took her hand carefully. "Now I know exactly who deserves it." He placed the ring gently upon her finger. Emotion filled Evelina's eyes while fireworks illuminated the sky around them. The feared duke who once trusted nobody now looked at her with complete devotion. Far below the balcony, several nobles noticed the moment and quietly applauded. Adrian ignored them entirely. Evelina moved closer, resting one hand against his chest. "Do you regret anything?" Adrian answered honestly. "Only the years I wasted believing love and power could never exist together." Evelina smiled softly. "Then perhaps the kingdom still has hope." Adrian kissed her beneath the silver fireworks, while Blackthorn Castle glowed behind them like a kingdom reborn. And from that night forward, the story of the disgraced woman given the worst room and the duke who chose to stand beside her became one of the greatest royal love stories ever whispered across Valtheria. If you enjoyed this royal romance filled with betrayal, forbidden love, fearless women, and powerful dukes, subscribe now for more unforgettable stories from the world of kings, queens, and dangerous love.